All right, there we are. Oh man, that light sucks.
All right, there we are.
Yeah. Okay.
How's it going, man?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
Doing excellent. So we'll just jump right into it. I believe this is going to be the EricSwanRacing.com podcast number 93 with Bobby Leavitt, and you're known as Ricky Bobby online.
Yep, that
And
is correct.
so I just wanted to talk with you, get your opinion and on some things, just chat for a while.
Yeah, man. Sorry about the light. It's pretty bright, but
Oh, good. It looks like you're out of your garage, so we got some natural light coming in, but it'll fade pretty quickly here in Michigan.
for
And what
sure.
bike you got behind you?
I got my 2013 ZX6.
All right.
Yep. It's my baby. It's my second race bike. I started out on a 2007 CBR 600RR
Okay.
and raced that from like 2012 till about 2017, and then it was just getting too long in the teeth, so decided to upgrade.
It was becoming slow on the straightaways.
No, it was a built bike, but it's just getting old. It's just mainly had to do with the transmission and just being able to work on the bike. You had to split the cases every time you worked on the transmission, and I already had the transmission back cut and coated, so it was already starting to have issues again, and just didn't want to have to deal with it. This thing's got a cassette style transmission, so
Yeah.
super easy. So
Yeah, Kawasaki is nice like that, that they engineered it so it's easy to work on. It's crazy sometimes the way things are engineered, and when you do an oil change, it comes out in the wrong spot. But sometimes the engineers don't really care how you have to work on it. They're just designing it.
yeah, I got one of those foldable, um what do you call it? It's like a fuel filler or an oil filler, but it's a foldable one. So I just stick it in there and then bend it so it comes down. Or I used foil. That was another way to get around it, so you didn't make a mess. But
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't want to drink the R6 Kool-Aid. I just couldn't do it. And I know a good buddy of mine, Jeff May. Everybody knows who he is, but he tried to get me to buy one of his R6s, and I'm like, man, I just don't want to drink the Kool-Aid, dude. I want to do something different. So I raced that Honda. It was different. I won a regional championship on it. I went pretty good on it, and you know, I saw this thing. It's like, man, it's easy, old man bike. I'm in my 40s, so it actually feels really nice. You sit in it. You don't sit on top of it, so it's just a lot better to get around. It's got tons of power too. So
Yeah, and everybody's on the R6. It seems like if you really want to do well, sometimes that might be the bike to be on if you look at the top teams. But now they're all in Suzuki's and they're getting into different brands, so it's not a one manufacturer series anymore, and you can win on a variety of different bikes.
oh yeah, for Team Hammer, they showed it when they got that Suzuki rolling. I mean, Richie took off on a DX6, and everybody's like, "Where did this come from? This bike's been around for how long, and nobody's been able to go fast on it." And
Yeah.
then suddenly he's the guy. So
Well, if you look over at World Super Sport, World Superbike, the Kawasaki seem to be doing pretty well. So I think they're a pretty good bike in the production scene, but they're just not represented in the prototype era.
well, and that's the old 600. That's not even the 636. Imagine if they had the 636 motor, it wouldn't be all R6s up front.
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes to show who is it, Chan Anchu, and who was the other Philip Odell. I think he's the other guy on there. And they're ripping, but they're pushing it. They are pushing
Yeah.
that bike.
You just got to be at the very limit
Yep. Yep.
for sure. And so you've been riding at the track for many years. What is your normal organization you ride with?
Um, so I raced with Wera. I started out with CCS. I did my license at Homestead, Miami. I drove from Charleston all the way down there just to do one race and get my license. So it was a little bit of a haul, but I raced out of KWS in North Charleston. It's a pretty well-known shop. And one of the riders, Luis Endejas, needed to bring his bike down there. So I took it for him. And then I brought it back. I actually brought Sean Dwyer's broke bike back that weekend. And it was kind of funny because, you know, first time racing, I go in and pull into the line to get into the racetrack. And I'm like, wow, it's a huge NASCAR racetrack. I started track days at Roebling Road, like the most basic track on the planet. Almost, it's about as basic as Tally. And, you know, just track days, right? And then you come to this gigantic racetrack and there's EBR factory racing trailer. I'm like, is this a club race? Like, what's
Yeah, they
going
come
on?
with semi trucks.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was 2012. So they had Corey West on the satellite bike, Jeff and Aaron were on the factory bikes, and they were out there ripping. And I was pitted with Sean Dwyer and actually a girl from the West Coast, Christina Kubron. She was out there riding. It was kind of cool. You know, you get to meet people. I'm a pretty talkative guy and to make friends with the rocks. So I'll just totally just in my element. You know, fell in love with motorcycle racing. So it's just one of those things where you meet all these people. And you know, I didn't even know the history of Sean Dwyer and racing at Macau and all this stuff. So I just knew him from the shop. And a very good friend of mine, Jason Duplantis, who was the one who convinced me to go racing. So I'd kind of been around it, but not actually doing it. So I got my license with the late Frank Kinsey, and I actually took my license with a kid named Ryan Cabrera. He raced pro for a couple of years with the Turbo Turtle team, and yeah, it was fun. Had a great time. And then so my buddy Jason was like, hey, you should just go race at all these cool tracks. Don't even stick with one series. So I did Roebling Road because it's an hour 45 from my house, and then CMP, and then with CCS, and then randomly just went to Road Atlanta for a wear around. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Completely different schedule, completely different transponder, you know, no idea what's going on, and just had a good time just learning. You know, it's the
Would you
first
say
year.
that it was fairly similar skill level or competition from where to CCS? Or how does that compare?
At that time, then that's always the argument, right? You know, you see all those posts about where is better than CCS, CCS is better than the where, at least in the Southeast. And I used to get in those arguments back in the day on track day junkies, like the OG track day junkies. And you know, at that time it was kind of shifting because like CCS at that time for novice had Ryan Cabrera, had Jeff Lesky, had Jason Dye, quite a bit of other people that have been around. And then the expert obviously is like Santiago Villa. He was there. I remember my first race at Roebling 2013. Mark Miller Jr. came on the outside of turn 7, and Santiago came on the inside of me in turn 7. So I was in this sandwich, and I just held my line. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. And they went right around me for the lap for the race win, because that was the last lap. And coming out of that corner, it's such a tight corner. I mean, Santiago's knee was in the dirt, and I was just like, all right, dude, you guys do you. I'm just staying in my line.
Yeah.
So it was fun. And but then, you know, things just kind of shifted a little bit towards Wera, you know, with CCS Florida kind of dwindling out, and then FMRA coming up, and everybody's just kind of scattered around. And Wera, I think, had a really good crop of people come through in 2015, 16, 17, and then just kind of, you know, they're where they're at now. It's got a lot of people in there. So
Yeah, I mean, even some of the greats like Nicky Hayden raced with Wera, and a lot of world champions, a lot of famous guys. I couldn't name them all off the top of my head, but I think Ben Spies, is one.
Yep. Garrett Gerloff with Wera. Jake Lewis, I know KWS built his bike and he won that championship in 2010, along with a lap record at Roebling on a 600.
Yeah.
The same year Tim Hunt did it, and then Jeff May broke it in 2016 15 or 16 when he got back into racing.
Yeah,
So,
and I've heard some people race different series just because, like maybe CCS doesn't go to Road Atlanta. I'm not sure.
no, they don't.
So maybe, that's a reason to jump over to try a new series. Not saying one is bad or
No.
one is better than the other. It's just they offer different things.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, like Stefano and Jeff were chasing money. Was it 2018, 2019? They were chasing BMW money and Kawasaki money, so they would bounce back and forth. And CCS only paid out, or BMW only paid out on Sundays. So like the feature as we're race, they would go racing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I got just trying to be smart and actually make money doing it. It's just instead of
Yeah.
spending money.
Exactly. I spend money. I never make money.
So are you sponsored by anybody?
Yeah, sponsored by KWS, and I got some local sponsors. I really enjoy try to do local sponsors. Carolina Sign Company does some of the graphics. Cruzel does my other graphics, but I'm not sponsored by him. I'm not that cool. But he's got a lot of people he takes care of. I don't, he's got a business to run, so I don't mind. What else do I got? Get some other stuff. N2, I control ride with N2, so they obviously get some track days and have some fun with them, and great group of guys. Spy, yeah, that awesome Hook It deal with Spy. That's a good one. And
Nice.
Holy City Brewing is been a long time sponsor, and they're a local brewery that's everybody knows me as the beer guy, because I always bring case of craft beer, and got those tasty IPAs and porters. And
yeah, hopefully you give so many out that you have an advantage over your competition the next day.
Yeah, get them all drunk the night before. But some people that's actually how they get faster. So I don't know.
Sometimes put it out of your mind. Don't think about it. Just go fast.
Yeah, I won my first race with a hangover. So
it can be done. I've seen it many times.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Boxo is a company I work with, actually, so we could talk about that later with some of the things I got into. But yeah, lately it's just racing with Wera. Won a Atlantic Coast Regional Championship for novice, because I raced a lot in novice, but because I didn't race enough to get out of it, and I'm not the fastest dude on. I don't go out there and just go rip it, and I'm only good at like a couple tracks. So that championship was hard fought with a couple buddies, Will Posse and Aaron Hernandez, and James Turgeon and Daniel Goodnight and stuff. We had a good time that year, and traveled around to Jersey. We went all the way to New Jersey for that first year of N2 endurance and Wera National Championship up at New Jersey Motorsports Park. And that was a good time. That was a lot of fun.
You get a lot of track time in those endurance races.
Yeah, I have not done one yet. I would like to at some point. I know my buddy Jason and I have been talking about it. I know a couple guys were wanting to do that, the relay race, if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah. So it's explain that to people, for people who don't know.
Yeah, so actually it's the brainchild of Chip Spalding, but you use your own bike and you ride for however long your gas lasts. You get up to 4 people and you just cycle through. So you use your own bike, your own tires, and then you go, and then you come in, you pass the transponder off, next guy plops it in and goes. So I thought that was a neat concept, because you don't have to build out this crazy, I looked into building an endurance bike, and to make the tank, to get the dry brake, I have most of the Fast Frank stuff already on there. I kind of did my front end where you take the fender off and then you can pull everything out. I only have 2 screws for the front fender, so it's kind of like the poor man's Fast Frank. And then, the endurance tank's probably the most expensive piece with dry brake, so you don't need any of that. It's awesome.
So for people who don't know, the doing an endurance, we don't normally change tires and have a gas dump in a motorcycle race. It's normally like an 8-lap, or depending on the track, a 6-lap or 10-lap sprint race, and then a feature race may be 20 laps or so, up to 45 minutes. But if you're doing endurance, say 2 hour, 4 hour, 6 hour, sometimes there's in world endurance 12 and 24 hour.
Yep.
You have to do every 45 minutes or so a fuel dump and maybe a tire change every other stint or every stint, depending on how many tires you want to use. So you have to realize you're not only taking off the front wheel, but you're also taking off like the caliper with it, right? So you have to have a quick disconnect system for that.
No, not for the front caliper. What happens is for the front end, Fast Frank does it where he has a swivel mount for the fender.
Okay.
So it's a pressed on O-ring onto the fork. So it take the fork completely apart, and then you slide it down on there, and then these little fingers stick up, and that's where the front fender goes to. So the calipers can rotate independently. So when they pull it out, it just flops open. So the fender is the key. So
Yeah.
my buddy Mike Godin at KWS was like, well, if you've ever looked at a MotoGP bike, they have quarter turn fasteners for the front fender. So they just
Okay.
pop them off and pull the whole front fender off, and it rotates independently. So you don't need to keep the fender on if you don't want to. So it's just, like I said, it's the poor man's way. So it's not as fast because the other thing is on the R6, which most everybody has, they cut the top of the fender flat. So it doesn't go all the way down. When you see a R6 endurance bike, the front fender just comes forward a little bit, and then you can actually see the curvature, so they could just pull the wheel straight out.
Yeah. And you probably lose a little bit of aerodynamics, but you save a lot of time.
Oh yeah, ton of time. Yeah, the aerodynamic stuff is they have on the inside some pretty trick parts that they do where they funnel the air around the radiator. So especially at Daytona, that's it's at least the bike that I saw was a Daytona 200 like special bike. You can see all the cool stuff there. So
And so I'm sure there's not a R pin on that axle anymore. There's not like a cotter pin or something like that. It's just I guess you sacrifice a little bit of safety for speed, right?
yeah, they just run it in with the torque gun and just and then that's it.
So you better
They'll
not be
have the wrench on there and they'll click it and then that'll be it.
better not be cross-threaded.
Nope. Nope. Yeah, I
What
was
would happen if
lucky.
you cross-threaded it and just ruined all those threads in there?
Done.
You're gonna need a whole new fork set.
Done. Yeah. I mean, the cool part about this bike is it's already got a threaded axle. Whereas all the other bikes, Fast Frank has to he makes a threaded insert that the pinch bolts go around, and then he has a full like bolt axle that goes through, and that's what happens. So this thing has it already, which is cool. And then the back end came already because it was an old AMA super sport bike. John Foy had it built back in like 2013, so he dumped a bunch of money into it. So it's got like um, light tech axle adjusters, and it has the Fast Frank setup already on it. I just don't have the underslung brake caliper bracket, which makes it super easy because then you just dump it in.
Sure.
So
yeah, there's a lot of different brands that sell those parts or methods to do that stuff nowadays.
yeah. And actually, Frank just sold the business.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he sold it to One Eye Moto.
Oh, cool. Well, maybe it'll keep growing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. He got to finally sell his business off where he can just retire and help out Westby Racing on.
Yeah, do what you really want to do. You can grow it to a certain point where it can make money for you, but now maybe out of it and got a chunk of change.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think about. I'd almost say 80-90% of the bikes on the Daytona grid had a Fast Frank setup.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I mean, it's the only people that had money to make their own, and that's very few. That's M4 and Attack. That's it.
Yeah. Unless they're buying it maybe from overseas somewhere, other suppliers or something.
Yeah, but then you're spending way more money. You just paid Fast Frank, and he's in South Carolina, so.
Yeah, homegrown.
Exactly.
And then what's your plans for this year for racing, track days, riding, coaching, anything on the radar?
Yeah. So I kind of play it by ear. I'm in the Air Force Reserve, so that kind of dictates my season. when they put the schedule out, I see all the weekends that I have to attend military service. So I know Road Atlanta, Wera is on my radar. Couple of Roebling roads, obviously, because it's quick and it's my home track and it's the one I'm really fast at. And then I'm been bummed that Wera hasn't been having VIR on the schedule because I really like that track. So I definitely want to do a track day at VIR with either Evol, who N2 has a affiliation with. And I want to hang out with the PRE guys because my buddy Dean Bosch is over there, and John Dunham and a couple other guys. So I just like doing track days with some buddies that I used to race with, and I know my buddy Jason wants to go out and do a bunch of track days. So just travel around and have fun. I'm not at this point, 43. When I'm done doing my first sergeant gig with the Air Force, and I can actually get back to being able to reschedule my weekends. Eventually like to do the senior superbike like national championship and just go travel around to different tracks, go up to mid Ohio, be kind of Nelson Ledges. I really wanted to check that track out.
Yeah.
Just have fun. I mean, I think the one thing that's always kept me fresh for most of my racing career, I guess you could say now, it's been like 10 years almost. I never burnt myself out. I did one full season and I really put in the work to get to every round. And that was 2017. And that was the reason why I did Atlantic Coast, because I only had to go to 6 rounds. Where a Southeast schedule is brutal. It's like 11, 12 rounds.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, you're going to Tally like 4 times. You're going to Roebling Road 3 times. You got 2 Atlantas, and then you're going back out to Barber. And it's just a lot. Like Tally is a waste for me.
Yeah.
If I'm driving 6 hours, I might as well go another half hour to Barber.
Yeah.
I'm not
And
gonna
in the north there's way less rounds just because of the weather. I mean, we don't have as much season, and you guys in the south below that snow belt, you get the full year round racing ability. So it's a little bit different with how many rounds you can have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they start in February
Yeah.
at Talladega. So, and actually, this is the first year there's a Roebling Road round after GNF in November.
Well, it's like it's the championships are still going on, but national championship for bragging rights is kind of before that.
Yeah, it's over. So anyway, hey, John Hawkins is up there tearing it up. So
Heck
he's got all those. He's got that #1 plate. He keep coming down and cherry picking. That's what's going on, man.
Yeah, he's a heavy hitter now.
Oh yeah, no, I remember racing against him in 2018. No, 2017. Yeah, 2017 was his first time down to VIR, and he was going pretty good. And then that next year in 2018, he was cooking, man. He was cooking. I remember he was gone.
Oh yeah, I remember I would be riding with him on the street as street riders back in the day, talking like probably 2010, 2011, 12, and we all went down to the Deals Gap in Tennessee, and spent a week or so down there, maybe a couple days, and all like 20 of us, all in full leather suits, helmets, all gear. Some of us were track riders. I had just gotten into riding on the track, and that was really good for me to go down there and experience something like that as a new track rider, because as a new track rider, they tell you, oh, you got to be so smooth and careful, and you got to set up like a half hour before the turn, all this stuff. And that's what I was doing. But when you have 217 corners and 11 miles, you don't have time to set up. I mean, you definitely want to be smooth for sure. Don't get me wrong, but it's like a way different type of smoothness than I was anticipating. I'm like, you can't upset anything. No, on this one, you have to be moving, and things are sometimes, it's not dusty or sandy, but things are going to be moving around, and there's different bumps and elevation, and you just kind of get used to it after a while. It becomes the new normal.
Yeah, I have no desire to go ride. I actually rode in a car and about got sick.
Yeah.
Years ago, buddy of mine, I was up at non-commissioned officer academy in Knoxville at McGee Tyson, and he wanted to go because he used to ride bikes and had a BMW and he was like, "Hey man, let's go down to Tail of Dragon." I'm like, "All right, man, I'll go." Oh, that was brutal, brutal ride. And then I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, I would not feel comfortable riding this thing on a motorcycle. All the cliffs and like barely any guardrails. And I know that is it Little Switzerland in Hickory, North Carolina has half as many turns in the same distance, and it's way better riding that
Yeah.
nobody talks about. So
I'd love to check it out. I mean, I am not a street racer. I don't advocate racing that on the street ever. But I like to be able to ride something maybe at 75% and say that I accomplished it. I went out there, I did it, I tamed it, but I'm not racing it. I'm not looking for a record time through it or anything like that. I'm just like looking to have an enjoyable ride and come out the other side.
yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. And you know, I'm all about enjoying the road. It's just funny because you start going to track dates and you enjoy the camaraderie and a well prepped surface, and you're out there just having a good time for 8 hours, and then you go on the street and you're like, "Ooh, this looks kind of sketchy. I don't know if I want to ride this." And then everybody's going
Yeah.
around ripping everywhere, and you're like, "What are you guys doing? You're acting all crazy."
Yeah, and they don't. The thing is, you realize that these guys in the street really know nothing about riding. They just know how to go fast in a straight line and be a hooligan, for the most part. Now, I went to the Tail of the Dragon one time, and I think every other year or every year since then, a whole bunch of my buddies that of that same group and other people still go every year, and I haven't been back because I'm like, I'd rather just go to the racetrack. I mean, that was fun and everything, but it's not my cup of tea. Like, you can get arrested for doing that. You can, fly off a cliff. One of my buddies, who was actually following right behind me, ended up smacking himself into the mountain. And, luckily he went that way instead of the opposite way, off the side. But that was still not a good crash, anyways.
Yeah, actually, I lost a buddy. He had just bought a KTM RC8R, and I've been hitting him up like, "Come on, dude, let's go to the track. I know you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna enjoy it way more than riding on the street." And he was like, "Yeah, man, yeah, man." I sold him some of my old gear, and I was like, "Come on, dude, let's go, let's go." And then he went and bought this RC8R. I was like, "Ooh." And then he went up there and tossed it into one of the guardrails, and
Ah,
when he went over, his wife made it, but he did not, and it was a bummer.
so they were a
So
two-up ride.
yeah, yeah, because they had,
Sounds like maybe too much to handle that bike as a newbie.
yeah. He wasn't really a newbie per se. He was comfortable on the bike, but definitely that bike gets out of control real quick with all the torque it's got. I mean, my first bike, well, my first street bikes, I had a cruiser when I first got in the Air Force. I'd ridden dirt bikes. I grew up in Southern California, so dirt bike riding was, everybody did it. And my brother used to race amateur motocross and stuff. So, I wasn't, I didn't really know how to ride a dirt bike then. I could operate it fine, ride around the street on it, but as actually like really riding a dirt bike with elbows up, getting into the corners, I didn't know how to do any of that. I still don't. And so I got a cruiser, and then I went through a pretty painful divorce back in 2009. And so in 2010, when all the paperwork was done, I was like, I want to get back into motorcycles. So I had a buddy who had a RC51 for sales in 2003, and I was like, "Yep." I'd known about that bike for a while. I knew about Nicky Hayden, even though I wasn't into racing at the time. And back when the RC51 first came out, and I remember it was 2000, 2001, and I'd seen it in the showroom, and I'm like, "Man, that bike was crazy." So I got one, and holy moly, man, that thing was torque monster. And
I
only
bet.
this bike has more horsepower than that bike. That's the funny part. But man, that thing comes up real quick, and geez, yeah,
Your wheelie monster.
yeah, and it was heavy. Oh my gosh, that was a heavy bike.
Talking like
Those-
450 pounds or something.
Yeah, it's the most uncomfortable bike on the planet. I rode it from here to Columbia, South Carolina. It's like 90 miles, like easy, right? I had to pull over at like halfway because my back hurt, my wrist hurt trying to ride the thing because it's like riding a big R6 and not comfortable, just constantly on your wrists and you're just no bueno.
Right.
So yeah, I crashed at my first track day at
Ah,
Roebling. Frank
I hear
Kinsey,
that's a
yeah.
common thing.
Yeah. Funny part is that the street in front of the track is called Roebling Road. So when I wrote it on the insurance paperwork, I put Roebling Road on there. So they gave me my money and I got it rebuilt.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So I pimped it out a little bit, but it
You
already
know,
had like potato rear
yes.
sets on there. So
So you had some parts on it, it sounds like.
yeah. Yeah, I had
Um,
the power commander on there and they had tuned down a little bit and then they had potato rear sets. It had this weird like cut um Leo Finche exhaust. So the cans were only like that big.
pretty short. Maybe
Yeah.
slip on or full systems.
Yep. Yeah, it was a slip on, but they had cut the can down.
Yeah.
So it, like really short. So when I swapped out with a buddy who had Yoshis, I put them on there and they were like huge. So I'm like, oh man. So but that high mount exhaust, that's the way to go on that bike. But
Yeah. I've even seen some of the Kawasaki's older models had the undertail exhaust. That's pretty cool.
oh yeah, the 0506 ZX6s had them.
Yep. And
And
that's one way to not damage your exhaust as much.
the Honda had it, and I had a cut carbon pipe, carbon arrow pipe, and the back of the tail was flush with the end of the can, so never stuck out past. So every time I crashed, that can was fine, no problem.
Unless
This
you
one,
just really wad it up and then the whole tail section's gone.
yeah, it's even the can was still good. I tossed it at the kink at CMP. I went through there, and just first time with tuned MR12 tune, and I was blasting through there on the outlap and just squid moment, and I went too fast through the kink and I just misjudged it the turn in and I couldn't get it turned, and I stood it up and cartwheeled the bike and everything got all bent up, but can was fine.
It's cool how that works out sometimes. Some bikes you crash them once and you split the cases. Other bikes you can crash it 50 times and never split the case.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Just how it's built.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know about the Honda was pretty cheap to crash, and I don't those R6s, man, the magnesium subframe. No way, man.
And some of them, they require tank sliders so they don't explode now.
Yeah, I have them on here. The other side's dented, so that's why this side's there. But yeah, it's those tank sliders actually work out pretty good.
They help help the denting or help it just not spark.
Both. The dent on this thing is always because the handlebar gets shoved on top of the tank.
Oh yeah.
It's not that bad because that was at Road Atlanta. I hadn't raced for like 2 years. I took some time off of the racing and just coached. And first lap out on the Superbike qualifying, and I tossed it in 10B, just went out, and it was like a cold tire. I had a medium plus on there for Barber, and I wasn't thinking because it was like high 50s in October.
Pretty cold temperatures.
Yeah, for that, yeah, not on that tire at that track, it's like ice. And yeah, so I got lucky. Somebody gave me a Moto America soft tire and came out the rest of the day. Everything got put back together fine. Got a new windscreen for my buddy Jamie Stars, and I was very thankful and got back on there and went out and had a good time. So
that's good. Sometimes when you damage a tank, it's like it can be catastrophic, but sometimes it can actually be fixed, which is pretty incredible what they can do.
Well, and that was the other reason the Honda was awesome to crash, because all you had to do was put the cover back on and everything was perfect. Because
Yeah.
I sold the bike. I was like, hey, dude, just so you know, when you pull this cover off, there's going to be quite a bit of dents on top. Don't worry about it. Because, I mean, I only use, so all the bikes that come out of KWS and Mike works on them or like builds them, he puts this really neat drain. You can see it. It's pretty cool. So there's a drain that comes out.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a quick disconnect drain that comes to the bottom of the tank. And so you can put exactly how much fuel you need for a race. For me on this thing, I usually put about 5 liters, which gets me, just in case there's a red flag and I got to come in, I don't need to do anything about it. But, a little over a gallon and good to go. And that's it. And then when I'm done, drain it out and then start over fresh. You never have a full sloshy tank. And
Nice.
especially when you run MR12, you pull it out and you put non-ethanol fuel in, you run the motor for a little while and clean it all out, and then you're good to go.
Is that stuff really corrosive on your engine?
Yes, it's very bad.
Isn't that interesting? The stuff that it needs to breathe is also what kills it. Same thing with humans. What we need, oxygen, is also what kills us.
Exactly. Yeah, on this thing, it's puts out enough I can run on pump gas, but lately I've been getting a little bit more competitive. And last year, the senior superbike class in the Southeast was pretty spicy with Tony McKnight. Tim Wilson came down from Pennsylvania. We had a good race, and Tony. Who else was in there? Jamie Starks, when he made his comeback, we had a good race in what was that, July? Oh man, that was a lot of fun. Went down to the wire on both races. So
Those are exciting.
yeah, and it's just all your buddies. Like we had a great time. The superbike race was good. I got podium in the C superbike race, which was kind of big for me because I'm never usually up there. Jason Waters was up there and Chuck Ivey were in front, and
Oh yeah.
I had a really crappy start because I started on pole. I got pole. It was crazy. I put in like a low 16 and everybody comes up. It's like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I'm just trying to put in a good lap time. And Chuck Ivey came over. He's like, all right, dude, I see you. So my start was the worst start ever. Everybody went by me. So I had to catch everybody and then just started picking people off in turn 1 and coming out of turn 9 and had a lot of fun. And so I couldn't catch him. I knew I could have done like a mid 14 probably to get up to him, but I was just stuck in like the low 15s, high 14s. And so it was a lot of fun. It was just fun racing people that I know, and we're all kind of around the same level.
Yeah, and I've been seeing him at the racetrack a lot more lately this year, and he's been killing it.
Oh yeah, no, he's getting ready. He ran the 200. He did pretty good in the 200, and then obviously he's swapped over to a Honda, so he was getting it dialed in 2 weekends ago at Roebling, and then he's been actually hanging out a lot with Louis, because Louis has a Honda as well, so they've been going to Jennings and trying to get that bike dialed in. Thermos Man's been working on that setup, so got the right guy.
Master.
Yeah, that's another relationship I foster with beer. So he really likes a specific IPA that the Holy City puts out, and I always bring him a 6-pack. And and Fitz is awesome because you go out to dinner with him and you just have a normal conversation, and racing comes up with some, and I've gotten some really good life advice from him. I think one of his ones that he told me was he's like, always make double your age, at least double your age in income.
That'd be good.
That's a good trajectory.
Yeah.
So I said, all right. And I thought about, I taken it to heart and worked on accomplishing it. So it was cool when I finally did. I was like, all right, man, I did it. So
yeah, now it's going to keep changing though every year. Right?
Yeah. So you got to keep pushing, figuring out other ways to make money. So, but yeah, he's such a good dude, and gosh, he's such a wealth of knowledge. So
for sure. And one of the ways you make some money, I guess, is from tools. Is that right?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, buddy from high school was running Instagram for Boxo USA, and they sell tools. And I was like, hey man, looking for sponsors, be happy to do something with you. And then he got back to me. He's like, hey man, how'd you like to sell tools? We don't have anybody on this in the East Coast, period.
Yeah.
Because they're based out of my hometown of Orange, California. So I was like, all right, man. So I set up an LLC, and I just a basic 1099 contractor for them, setting up dealerships. So that was how I initially got started. And the other reason why they thought I would be a good fit was because of my road racing background, and I have all these connections with road racing. So, it seemed like a great opportunity. So that eventually rolled into also starting my own retail business, selling the tools, trackside, and using my road racing background to just make those kind of small sales. I'm not trying to set up dealerships, so I'm also just trying to help out racers, and I use that as an opportunity to kind of get the brand out there without having to go to corporate, and being able to use my connections to start sponsoring other people. So I personally sponsor JD Beach.
Okay, yeah.
And James Rispoli, and Stefano Mesa. And then AJ Cadenzaro is a supercross racer, has a pretty big YouTube channel with his Moto X Academy. He's got Jet Lawrence as one of his coaches, and he was just doing a video with Hunter Lawrence as well.
Yeah.
You got the Lawrence brothers, pretty good guys to teach some motocross skills, and to have some, some name dropping on there, so we could get some people to come, do it. He was crushing the coaching game anyway.
Yeah, some big names for sure.
Yeah. So, and then another guy I kind of got up with, who's also kind of the dirt bike guru, is Clint Lund of the Lund MX channel. And he was Adam Entignap, aka Seven Deuce Deuce, his crew chief for quite a few years, and also his brother Tyler. So I kind of work deal with him, so get featured on his YouTube channel, and trying to draw on some sales that way. And really, I wanted to kind of give back to some of the racers, like JD. JD's such a good dude. I had hit him up for some stuff with corporate, and then, it's kind of hard. Corporate's already, Boxo corporate sponsors Axel Hodges. They got a deal with Ricky Carmichael, Star Racing Yamaha. Big deal with Star Racing. If you look at their paddock videos, they've got a Boxo box in the back. Eli Tomac's got the Boxo giveaway. So, which I'll be at Atlanta Supercross in a couple weeks in the Star Racing Yamaha pit working for Boxo. So I always really make sure I'm careful with what hat I have on
Yeah.
what I talk about. So I really want to maintain a good relationship with them, and make sure I support the brand, as well as, being able to do my own thing. So I really try to uh, be careful with that. So, but it's a good thing. I thoroughly enjoy it.
Are the tools that you sell, are they like motorcycle specific, like a Motion Pro type of thing, or are they like wrenches and torque wrenches, stuff like that?
So I have some. So, this kit behind me is actually a prototype of something I've been working, but the box actually has all the foam in it.
Oh, nice.
And it's, I'm working on a road racing box with them, but they came out with what they call the Moto Box, which is for dirt bikes. But pretty much 98% of the tools in it you can use on a road race.
Okay.
The only issue is it goes up to a 32 millimeter socket, so kind of limited. Whereas this one, I had them put a 34 and a 36 for the BMW and the Suzuki. So, but
There's
this is
some
the
odd sizes that you need, right?
Yeah, this is the top tray for the Moto Box.
Okay, nice. Got
Yeah,
some
so
sockets, got some extensions, some torque wrenches in there.
yep, and everything's foam cut and everything's labeled,
Oh, nice.
so you know where everything's supposed to go. And like the dirt bike stuff, these aluminum tire spoons
Cool.
actually have the inserts in them, and um, everything's lifetime warranty, and they got the uh 90 tooth ratchets, and then even the really nice
Oh, very
axle nut
good.
tool.
Axle nuts.
Yeah, so I got in with them because I really like the product. Um, everybody's gonna be like, oh, they're not made in the USA. Well, they're made in Taiwan, yes. But as somebody who works for Boeing, the ISO 9000 quality management certificate is kind of a big deal, and they have one. So I stand behind that part, which me means the most.
For sure.
Uh,
And we're such a global economy now. I just bought something the other day and it said it was made in like 4 different countries. I was like, how is that possible? It was like my brother got me a little Lego Connects thing
yeah.
together.
Did you
And
get the
this was made in
BMW?
like this was made in like 4 or 5 different countries.
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, how is that possible? Why do you need 4 or 5 countries for this?
Well, it was 787, which is the program I work on at Boeing. The airplane's made in like 19 different countries.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
All
parts
different
coming in from
materials.
yeah, uh, parts come in from England, France, Japan, Italy, Israel, like all kinds of places. So, but yeah, it was super cool. And then just they have a lot of other motorsports oriented things. Like they have a UTV tool roll that's got pretty compact and it's really useful just to throw in the UTV and being able to kind of work on something that broke. They have a bigger bag that's got electrical test equipment. Like if you really go out in the backwoods, even with a Jeep, they're working on a Jeep box now that slides in the back behind the seat, and when you
Okay.
open the rear door, the tool drawers slide out and it mounts to the mounting, was it mounting brackets that are in the back. Um, they got a truck box that goes under the back of an F-150, and it's got the drawers that come out the side, and then one lockable one in the middle in case you like to conceal carry and you don't have a lockable box.
Yeah, it'd
Uh,
be nice to upgrade my tool set. Over the years, I've just been, one at a time, basically upgrading piece by piece as I need it. So it's all a hodgepodge of all this different bullshit now. And I got mice in the garage, so they're making their home in my toolbox for a little while. So I got to get some traps, I think, to protect my stuff.
well, and that was kind of one of the biggest reasons why I did it was because I was like, man, those rigid toolboxes that they sell at Home Depot and you can stack them up. And they got, the big one on the bottom of the wheels. So that's what I used to roll around with. And it was nice and all. It's definitely, I would say, perfect for if you were just had a van, which I had for a little while. Um, it worked perfect because it's compact. You can lift it, put it in there. You got everything you need. But then I bought a 6x12 trailer, and I was like, all right, I need to kind of step up my game. And obviously, it's a nice little write-off for company too. Um, so I got a nice 35-inch wide roller. The top slides open. It's got 2 tables that the top turns into, and then it's got a power bar, and just kind of nice upgrade, and then it stays in the trailer. Don't have to worry about anything. Um, but yeah, it's just nice to have a set, I did a deal with N2 last year for all the endurance champions for each of the top 3 classes, the 1,600 and twins. Uh, each got one of those Moto Box.
Oh, nice. That's good to
Yeah.
see around the paddock too. Big names and race winners using your stuff. It's
Yep.
it's people want to emulate the best, and if
Yeah.
you're using it, maybe it works for me too.
Yeah. Army of Darkness got one. My buddy James Sturgeon and Doug Royce and Brandon Sellier, they got one for Top Box Racing. Oh, Mark Faulkner's on that team too. They won for Top Box Racing, and then I'm trying to remember who won. The Twins won. I think it was Team Yo, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Chris Parrish and them, but yeah, and then Dustin Pointer out in California runs track days, and he's got a couple partners that do the California Road Racing Association, that new series that started up last year. So I worked a deal with them and got them like an overall points, like, oh no, it's a raffled off small roller toolbox with so those foam trays, um we sell them for roller toolboxes as well. So they have specific sizes to go across, so you can actually do like 3 across, or they have the smaller ones where you can do 2 of those with just like special sockets or like hex heads. And then so when you go on the cal, you can kind of mix and match stuff for your box.
Yeah.
So I got them the 3/8 inch, half inch, and quarter inch kit. And the quarter inch kit has a lot of the bits you need to work on the bike.
And I'm sure, a lot of people don't just have one toolbox. I got one in my truck that's like my truck garage toolbox. And then I got one in the basement. And then I got a spare one in the garage. It's just like, extra tools or duplicates that I don't really need anymore. So, there's a lot of places you can put a toolbox, or a lot of places people could upgrade their tools.
Yeah, and I like this guy because it's got everything you need. You just pop it up, and especially like I've been trying to market. I want to get the road racing one going because and my buddy Mike Godin, he really liked it because he could just take that thing right into pit wall and just leave it there to work on the bike when it comes in and out. So
Yeah.
he's really big on, it's like, same as Richard Stamboli, but their mindsets when they put a bike together is completely different than what you think about, because they want to work on it in sections. They want to be able to take whole assemblies off and then replace whole, like, have you ever seen Richard and Attack replace parts on a bike? Like the whole thing comes apart, and they got a whole new seat unit that goes in with everything. So you just plug wires in and bolt it up, and it's done.
It makes sense, instead of having to do an entire assembly, just bolt on, have everything ready, and then just bolt that one piece on instead of doing all the small pieces after.
Well, what was interesting, so last year, Joey Giannato, who's another good buddy of mine, his shock was disqualified because when Mike puts a bike together, he puts a extension, welds an extension onto the bolt head or a socket. He welds a socket onto the nut end of the shock. So he just hits the thing in there and pulls it out, and everything comes apart super quick.
Yeah.
So you don't have to funnel anything in there. You're like fiddling around with all stuff. It just boop comes right out. So that was not stock. So they were like, you need to find a stock one now.
That's not really a performance upgrade. It's more like a mechanical upgrade for the mechanic only.
Yes. I was so silly. He's like, it's not making me go faster.
It could make you go faster with quicker changes.
You're right. I don't know. It's just the right change. I don't know. It's figured it weighs a little bit more, so you have less horsepower.
Yeah, it'd be a hard thing to, I guess, notice in tech.
Yeah, they picked it up pretty quick, and they were like, that looks kind of funny.
Yeah, I wonder how many things they don't catch. How many little things like that people have made changes to that get by.
Oh yeah, right. Was that Days of Thunder when he was telling him he put fuel in the frame of the car, or no, the fuel line was thicker, or was a larger diameter, so it carried an extra gallon of fuel.
Right. It's like all the little race in the rule book tries.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been really cool for the last couple of years, and just trying to grow my website, rbgmotorsports.com, and just trying to get the brand out there, and kind of get it well known with the road racers, and trying to push this road race box. We've been trying to do it for the last year. it was kind of cool getting the prototype made, and there's still quite a few tweaks to it. And then they want to kind of combine the Moto Box and the road race box into one. So I'm working on that, trying to get the parts list and the orientation right. And so it's just, things take time.
For sure.
So,
It'd be cool to have a road racing specific and motocross specific, but maybe both, because a lot of people do both.
exactly. And that was my point of marketing was okay, well, I have kind of general idea, and I just need to add a couple things like the tire spoons, because that actually is something that the dirt bike guys need. So just reorienting it. And I did have
the road racing guys. I know that there's a lot of people who will do road racing tires with spoons. I mean, it seems like a pain in the ass, but I've heard of it done by many people.
Yes, and ask them what tires they did, because I guarantee you they weren't Dunlops.
Probably Bridgestone or Michelin or something.
I would say the Pirellis.
Pirellis are the more supple.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, the Nomar machine.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, actually, the Nomars.
Yeah, I had one for a little while. I was borrowing off a buddy, and I was doing my tires on my truck, and because he had the truck hitch. And yeah, I did the Pirellis. They were fine, and even in the cold weather, I could get it done. But as soon as I touched the Dunlop, it's like, man, I got to throw this thing in the microwave to soften it up if I need to.
Put it on your tire warmers beforehand.
Yep, that was another thing I was going to try. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how you can put your tires on tire warmers for hours and hours, and then go out for a session and then do a lap or two, and you still have cold tires?
Oh, yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. Well, it's all about the outside temperature. I mean, I crashed at Road Atlanta after 5 laps, and was it like 63-degree outside temperature? I'm sure the track was closer to 70, but left hand corner was offline by like 2 feet, and then just tucked the front, and that was it. 5 laps.
Sometimes I've heard that it's not just the outside of the tire, it's the whole carcass, it's the rim, it's the air inside the rim, it's everything. And so it all has a part to play in keeping the tire warm.
Those Capit tire warmers that have the part where it actually touches the tire and touches the wheel and heats the wheel.
Yeah.
You seen those?
It goes on the rim too.
Yeah, it goes on the rim too. So when you touch the rim's piping hot. And
be careful.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean, think about it. That if the rim's hot, everything else is hot, so it lasts longer, and it's got the rim's not sucking the heat off of it, because that's the first thing to pull it.
Yeah.
Especially aluminum rim.
Now, I'm thinking of some crazy things I've seen in the days. I'm pretty sure I've seen somebody put on way too much. What is that? The tire lube, and actually have their tire move on the rim before. That's not a very common thing, but it can happen.
Yeah. I know sometimes MotoGP wheels they'll spin a tire. I know some of the super bikes have spun tires. I'm trying to think, but sometimes there's so much grip as the bike's trying to propel itself forward, and then bike's just
you're
on it and it'll spin it.
Even some of those lesser known carbon fiber wheels, or those brands I've heard of coming apart or disintegrating. That's like a once in a blue moon type of thing, but that stuff can happen.
Yep.
If it's a newer brand or newer component they're trying out, or even what the carbon disc brakes or Brembo was using, they warned the riders, and that was, I think, Maverick Vinales' crash at Austria. He just, he couldn't stop the bike and just bailed because the brakes were or something.
Yeah, they go into that in the MotoGP Unlimited series.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, have you seen the series at all?
Yeah, I know that it exists, and as soon as it was released, everybody was up in arms about the dubbing. Somebody was talking about they were talking over the main actual audio from the riders.
It depends. I did not have that.
I think they got it switched already. They got it fixed, I heard.
And I looked at it day one and I watched it and it didn't have that issue.
Maybe it's for like UK viewers or like in another country.
I know UK viewers had it, but there were some in the States that had it. It was just how you watched it. I think they had a couple different versions, and if you didn't pick the right one.
Okay, yeah.
Because I know I had my closed caption on and I could see the words being said by everybody in their home language, which was fine. I did not mind that at all.
Yeah.
But I did see the people that were not happy with the overdubbed. The same person for everybody. So Rossi sounded funny, but um,
But it was a good series. It sounded like
oh
it was
yeah,
a good turnout.
yeah, it was I thought it was better than Drive to Survive. Because I just started it. I just started Drive to Survive last night, and it wasn't I don't know, it just seems too polished, and you don't get to see a lot of what's going on. Whereas MotoGP, they were in the garages. They were everywhere. They were talking to people at their homes. They had, they were just everywhere. And it was, I mean, they went through the whole Vinales thing, which was really cool to see all this stuff. And actually how tight Alicia Spargo is with Maverick. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Yeah, they're like super tight. So I thought it was pretty cool, and it was really well done, and they did a really good tribute to Rossi, and they kind of talked a lot about it. That was pretty
So it's
easy.
it's on Netflix. You can watch it if you got the subscription or Amazon.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gotta go check that out. And it's kind of funny, now people are saying to me, "Hey, did you watch the new Formula One thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, the race last weekend. Yeah, it was awesome." They're like, "No, no, not the race. The thing on Netflix." I'm like, "Oh, no, I just watched all the races. Like, I'm not used
Yeah,
to watching
exactly.
a recap of the races from a TV perspective. It's like a theatrical version of the race."
Yeah, they just released it for 2021 season, so they're going back through all the drama of 2021. So that was, getting to see kind of that play out since I started watching it more and more because I have a couple buddies that are into it. So I've been trying to be into Formula One, but also, hey, you guys should check out MotoGP. It's
Yeah.
not saying it's better, but it's
I think it's great, for a lot of people, they don't have a video pass. So it's not on their normal cable channel, so they're never going to see it. So if they get something that's like a movie that has racing in it, it's a good way to hook them in, and then maybe they'll come over to your house and watch a race or something, or maybe they'll see it at a bar. I've been seeing MotoGP and motorsports more often, maybe because I'm looking for it, but more often at the bars lately and restaurants. It's even playing on that the Chive channel. I've been seeing, well, it's Red Bull sponsored, so um, all the Red Bull Rookies Cup stuff is on there sometimes, and you get some motocross action.
yeah. It's, oh, hold on a second. My wife is texting me.
Oh
Yeah, I don't want her opening the garage. uh, it was funny because my wife was in Myrtle Beach last Friday night or last Friday and Saturday, and she texted me a picture. She's like, "Hey, we're at this brunch place," and then she sent a picture. It was Moto America was on
Oh,
the
awesome.
TV at the bar, right? And I look and I'm like, "That looks like VIR." And I said that, and she goes, "Yeah, it is." She's like, "JD's winning," and I was like, "Oh, that's 2019." Because I was there. I was helping out a good buddy of mine, Corey Heflin, and I was helping him out in the pits that weekend. We actually changed out a motor, and uh, I had asked Melissa Paris if I could borrow her oil cooler off her R1, and she
Yeah.
was happy to oblige because she wasn't riding it. So that was that weekend that Josh came back with R6, and so she was like, "Yeah, yeah, go ahead, take it." And I was like, "Oh, let me tell Corey." So he was super pumped about that. But yeah, we were there that weekend. I got a picture and I sent it back to her. I was like, "Oh, this weekend," and I had to text JD. I was like, "Yeah, my wife's watching watching you on TV winning a race. And he was like, oh yeah, every time it comes on, everybody texts me. And it's like it happened yesterday. He was so pumped about that.
That's awesome though. Yeah, JD Beach, I mean, is one of the only guys in this era to have won in flat track and road racing in back-to-back weekends.
No,
Was it? It was pretty close together.
it was within the same year, if I'm not mistaken, because he won that Arizona TT later that year, I believe.
Yeah, it was within the same season at least.
Yeah, within the same season for sure. Yeah, because he won that Arizona TT. That was at the end of the year or close to the end of the year. Yeah, because last year he won the Atlanta TT.
Yeah.
And won another race as well. But he does really good on the TTs. Daytona. He won Daytona too. But yeah, it was funny because when I started watching AMA racing in 2011, he was on 2010 or 2011. He was on that Attack Kawasaki.
Yeah.
That ZX10 that Eric Bostrom rode like 2 rounds and then he split. Then JD came in and rode that bike and he was at Sonoma racing and I remember watching it because that's all they could talk about was how well he was doing on the bike.
He's been a man to watch for a long time.
Yeah, super good dude. But yeah, it's been really cool seeing it. I got my buddy Jeff. He lives here. I took him to Moto America last year at Road Atlanta. Never been. He's a big like cars, sprint car dirt track guy. He's from Pennsylvania, so he's all about that Willow Grove area. And so I'm like, hey man, you should come with me. Go make a weekend of it. I got my buddy Robert, could sleep in his toy hauler, and we'll just hang out. He's like, oh, it sounds like a blast. So we loaded in and hung out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and he'd never been before. Brought him down. He's a veteran, a Navy guy, and so I took him down to Tony Blackall's pits, and he was loving it up with some Janet and some Tony Love, and everybody's having a good time. And
Tony's got a unique story.
Yeah, he's such a good dude too. He hooked up my buddy John, who was up in McGuire in Jersey, and actually, so Chris Ulrich got me the ticket to give to my buddy because he had just got done with the Afghanistan airlift. So he just got back. So I told him, hey man, Moto America's like an hour away this weekend. He's like, oh yeah, I'll check it out. I said, I'll get you a ticket. He's like, all right, I'll go. So then I got him a ticket for Saturday, and then I sent him over to Tony's area, and he got some, a bunch of swag, a shirt, and all kinds of stuff. That was cool, and he had a good time. But my buddy Jeff he was a Bobby Fong fan, so he's kind of bummed he's not Superbike anymore. But
he's on the baggers, right?
Yeah, he's riding.
Harley, is it?
I think he's on the Vance and Hines or one of the other Harleys. So, because Taylor Knapp's on one of the Harleys, and
Rispoli's out there, the big 43.
Yep, he was crushing it.
Yeah, man.
He was having a really good time. So I was pretty pumped for him too, because I know he was on that Harley last year on flat track, and that was not the bike was not doing so well in that series with all those Indians.
And he's still going to be doing flat track, I think, this year. Is that right?
I don't know for sure. I didn't see him. He did not race at Texas. So
okay, we'll see what happens then. Maybe it's up in the air.
Yeah, because I think somebody else is riding that. That was a Lattice Harley.
Okay, yeah.
So,
George is one of George's bikes.
Yeah, George's bikes. Yeah. So, yeah, I think he's just doing the baggers in that bagger league.
Well, maybe he's trying to get back into doing some more road racing now.
Yeah, he was a great road racer, man. That dude
still is. I even see PJ PJ's BMW, and on his leathers, he's got something like they think I lost it.
Yep.
You know, he had a pretty horrific crash a couple years ago, from what I understand.
Yeah, his bike caught fire and his leathers were on fire and he got burned pretty bad. That B4R. So
That's
that
pretty
was at Road
scary. You know,
America.
most times motorcycle racers don't have to worry about fire too much. We can just kind of jump off of it. But if it clings to you or if fuel gets spilled on you, we
Yep.
don't actually wear any fire retardant gear. We don't. I don't know why that's not a thing.
Yeah. Well, so I fly in the Air Force Reserves as a loadmaster, and we have Nomex suits, and those are fire retardant suits. So I know that in the heat, that material closes its pores. It's the
Okay.
complete opposite of cotton. Cotton opens in the heat. Well, the Nomex closes in the heat. So that would suck in July, baking hot, and you're in this. Now you're closing up all the pores. Your body can't breathe. So you're like, oh god.
Yeah.
So that would not be fun. But
You do some some clothing engineering of sorts, because I had this one pillow. I bought a set of it's a pillowcase and pillow and sheets, and it's if you touch it at room temperature, it feels cool to the touch.
oh wow.
So I know some undersuits are made of the same material or similar type material, and it'd be cool to have like a Nomex, but also cooling temperature for undersuit, something like that.
There's our $1 million idea right there.
I don't know how to do it. I'm not a chemist, or I don't even know what
Yeah.
you need to make that, or a seamstress or something.
Yeah, we need to talk to the V&M ladies over there.
It'd be pretty
Just
cool.
actually, yeah, I just got one of their tops through N2, so that was kind of neat. And
Nice.
been waiting to wear it. I finally got it in like January. So
Very good. I've been, I just turned 30 the other day, March 28th. So
oh, nice.
I'm old now.
Happy
And,
birthday.
Thank you, man. It's the 30th, so only a couple days after. But I'm like going through some stuff. I'm like, man, I've had this for 10 years, clothing and T-shirts and stuff. Like, okay, it's time. I can finally get rid of this. It says 2011 on it.
Yeah, I totally know. I actually still have all my old suits, so I keep them as backups.
But
yeah,
yeah,
actually, 1X suits. I got one of those, so I've been enjoying that for the last year.
nice. But in my process of going through some old stuff, I'm I'm getting some new things and trying to replenish and not just get rid of stuff. So I just got new Moto D T-shirt.
Oh, nice.
I sell Moto D. Moto D is one of my vendors. So
Oh, cool.
we have all of their, not all of their brands, but many of their brands, like Discasiti, Akasato, Easy Grip tank grips. There's Bonamici. A lot of Moto D brands are imported from overseas, so they may
Yep.
not be as well known in the States, but like Bonamici is used by Rossi's bikes. So it's really good stuff, just a different brand.
Yeah, no.
So I've started to consider these brands my own, because I get them all at cost if I'm looking to put them on a bike myself, and they're great parts to sell. I've been selling Spark exhaust as well from Italy, a lot of Italian sport bike parts. Easy Grips UK. I got DNA air filters. I think those come from Greece. So kind of all over.
We'll have to do a little bartering with some tools and some bike parts.
Exactly. I just got a Starlane lap timer. So we got GPS lap timers that are universal, so they're not bike specific. And then we have ones that are plug and play that go right into your hardware of your bike, so you can get even more data straight from your bike, RPM, and I'm sure other things. But you can hook potentiometers and all kinds of suspension settings to it.
Yeah, I got the AIM Solo 2, just the basic lap timer.
Nice. Yeah, those are popular.
Yeah, they're very popular. I wouldn't mind it's something that data logs, but everybody keeps telling me, "Oh, don't worry about that crap. Just make that lap timer go."
Well, that's one way to make it go faster is the data, and to look on your computer, plug it in. Some of them are Bluetooth, I'm pretty sure now that you can just, it streams there, if I'm not mistaken.
That
Uh,
one's it's Wi-Fi. It puts out a Wi-Fi
that's
signal, and
that's what
then
it is, Wi-Fi.
yeah,
And
it
so
picks.
you can just log on your computer, and if you got a buddy or a teammate or someone on similar machinery, that's really helpful because now you overlay their actual lap and their position on the racetrack in corner 3, 4, wherever you want to look at, and pick apart. Oh, they're braking 50 feet later than you in turn 1, and they're getting on the gas sooner, which means you're being a pussy or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, oh wow, I didn't know I could go that deep, or even if it was possible and not crash.
Yeah. Chloe Learn, who does a lot of stuff with AIM. I hit her up on Messenger, and she helped me figure out how to do the settings on my race analysis program on my computer, so I could get the information overlaid correctly and understand what I'm looking at. 'Cause I couldn't do it. I'm like, why is this not working? So she helped me out. She's a wealth of knowledge because she does a lot with their data log. And
Yeah, she's becoming like a data engineer. She's from France, right?
yep, yeah, she actually works for Harley Davidson now. So
Oh,
she's
very
moved
cool.
up to Milwaukee, and she's going to be an engineer for Harley Davidson. So
Nice. Yeah, getting that stuff to work properly and getting accurate information out of it is really important. And I did a track day with a car. I got a rental car. I just went to the racetrack, and I got my Starlane lap timer, but I didn't do any updates. I just plugged it in and charged it, and I didn't download the latest software. So I was only getting for some reason 3 out of 4 sectors. So I get into the pit lane. I'm like, oh, that's a great lap time. And then look at the whole thing, like, oh, wait a minute, that's with 3 sectors. Like, oh, no.
that's the old XT lap timers.
Yeah.
I had one of those on my Honda, and I think I pulled a lap that was like 3 or 4 seconds faster than I've ever gone before, and I'll send it to my buddy. I'm like, dude, check it out. I did a 13 at Roebling, and he was like, bullshit. I call shenanigans. I'm like, yeah, it's that ghost lap you get.
Right. But
Yeah.
man, I actually had an old XT lap timer. We say old because they're not in business anymore.
Nope.
They went out of business. I don't know the behind the scenes about it. They sponsored me at one point and helped me out with pricing at a lap timer, and it wasn't like a GPS. I don't think at that time. I think it was
They
more
had a
dumbed down.
transponder.
Yeah, I had some of their models, and but I went on their website a couple years later, and they just does not exist. So
Yep.
I never really heard what happened. Maybe financial difficulties, I would assume.
Yeah, they were outsourcing their stuff. Whenever they went from the hard metal case to the plastic case, things got cheaper, and I think they just didn't do well with the business. And other lap timers are coming out. I know Moto D had a lap timer that came out.
Yep.
I know Scott had brought that one out, and then Starlane had been around forever, and AIM was the big one, and then you got the Gucci dash, the AIM dash, or the I2M. Those
And
are
those
pretty
are
cool.
expensive, right? Those I've heard those go up to like $15,000.
It just depends. I mean, the dash alone, if I remember correctly, was like just the dash was like $500.
Okay.
But then you had to get the data logger, which was close to $1,000. So you had to put that box in there, and then you had to buy all the cables to connect everything. And then if you wanted the Smarty Cam, that was another $1,000.
Yeah.
And then all the potentiometers and things like that. So you could definitely get up there, a couple $1,000s for the thing. But they have, like the DL is great because you just plug it into the ECU, and then you could throw a potentiometer on there and for brake pressure sensor switches like that. But the log box is the big key item because that's where all the ports go into. So
Yeah.
you want to add a bunch of different ports in your. But again, there's all that data analysis you're going to do with brake pressure, how far you compress the front fork, the rear shock, RPM, speed.
Yeah, it's like it's great to get all that information, but what are you going to do with it? Are you going to actually analyze it? You're going to pay someone 30 grand a year to look at the information?
Yeah, or just trying to go through all the thought process of like, okay, well, I have to do this, I have to do that. That's why it's nice to have like Mike Godin's good because he does that all the time. So he can look at it and then he'll look at the motor and or the ECU, and he can do the flash with because he does Woolwich, and then also has like the HRC stuff or whatever for the Honda. But he'll get in the kit box and he'll change all the stuff, and then engine braking here and some out there, and then so they pay him to do that, and I'm just basic, and I'm like, hey, just need to check out my rear tire and see what my tire wear looks like, and
Yeah.
give me some advice.
Right. Yeah. I mean, having that information is good. I would settle for just like a good standard universal GPS lap timer, and then spend the rest of your money on yourself, like going to corner spin or
Yep.
grinding in the dirt, or anytime you can get a coaching session with another rider who's a couple seconds faster than you, is really the best bang for your buck. Don't spend it on paint your wheels. You should run primer grade body work as long as you can, because
Yep.
you're just gonna crash it.
Yep.
So I mean,
Although I did only spend $100 a wheel on that fancy green powder
there you
coat.
go.
So
That's not bad. Just a rattle can.
no, it's powder coat.
Okay,
There's a powder coating company, and they only charge me $100 a wheel. So
that's pretty good. It's usually like several hundred, I hear.
yeah, no, it is. It's a couple $100. They hooked me up pretty good, and it was pretty darn close to that Cowie green. So I was like, all right.
Yeah, I've never had any wheels painted, but just body work.
Yeah, that's why I'm actually gonna put this in the backup bin, and then I'm gonna go buy that pre-green hot bodies.
Yeah,
I don't gotta paint it.
isn't that awesome?
Yeah, I thought that was everybody was like teasing me. It was like, oh, I get hot bodies. I'm like, they
I
all
ran hot
crash about
bodies.
the same. They all
Yeah,
crash the same. Who cares? Like, hot bodies are super cool. They put my bike on their Instagram channel, and I had it all done up, and Cruisel did a really good job with all like I wanted the retro colors.
yeah.
So I went with like all the retro colors, and you know, just wanted that old school look, because my 1X suit was it's a Scott Russell replica.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's got the shoulder blade things on there, and then the green and the black and the yellow and the pink and the blue and all that stuff. So
It's like those neon colors from the 90s almost.
exactly, because I'm gonna go green with this thing, and I was talking to Cruisel about doing it. Kind of even going more, because he did Jason Aguilar's bike,
Yeah.
and that thing was so awesome. With Freddie had done its Superbike Unlimited, and that was like, man, that bike is so badass. And then Johnny Ray came out with theirs. I'm like, oh, who got the idea from who, huh?
Which one came first?
Yeah, no, that bike was so cool. So I wanted to do something. And the Barnes brothers had uh like 2020 ZX6 that had like the white, blue, and green,
Yeah.
early 90s ZX7 colors. Oh man, that looks so cool.
I did a couple of different liveries, but mine was most of the time was the blue and white. It was a Kawasaki, but you don't see many blue and white Kawasaki's.
No.
It was just that was the colors of STG at the time.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to run their colors. I'm like, okay, nobody asked me to run their colors before. I'd be happy to be looking like another team, in an already established group. So I was like, sure, I'll run it. And then it just kind of became my colors. And then it's part of my logo colors now. I did run the green and black Kawasaki for a little while. My buddy Al, he painted it. I looked pretty nice, but it didn't last too long. It was only like 2 rounds before I wadded it up. So I never went green and black again. And then I think I went back to the blue and white for a while. And then my Triumph was all black, just all matte black. That was a pretty cool look. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I'd like the all black, and then just get some accent stickers or decals, and then just kind of arrange your sponsors in a way. That's part of the reason why I just paid Cruisel, because if stuff is just proven and it looks awesome, and I've never
Yeah.
had like a really nice looking bike, and finally got it done. And that was sad because I crashed it like a month and a half later. So it didn't last long. Like, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
So yeah, because my old Honda, that thing, never really looked right. It was always things that just looked. I just started putting stuff everywhere, and
Always had a
What
little bit of a blemish.
yeah, and it's just that bike did pretty good. It was just the stickers didn't look right, and I just, my buddy Jason was always giving me a hard time how it didn't look right, because his bikes always look good, but it's because Cruisel did them all.
Yeah.
So I just, hey, that's a proven formula, and he's got the templates, and it's not
Yeah.
that bad.
I've
It's not that
been
bad.
told you should stay away from anything that's really busy or multiple colors, because when you're gonna crash, it's gonna be really hard to fix it and make it look brand new again if the bodywork is salvageable. So if it's easy colors like blue and white, you could just buy white duct tape and just duct tape it up and do nothing else. Maybe do the inside and the outside, and it's good to go.
Yep.
Same thing with blue. I think I actually had a big roll of blue vinyl in the same exact color as the paint color.
Just
So we would just like take vinyl and cut it to the exact size you need, because there's been, I'm sure you've had this happen, but where you're banging bars with other riders and you have foot pegs gouge your bodywork from the other rider's bike. So that's happened several times. I'm like, well, it's just a big, scrape down, not a scrape. He got inside my bodywork and then ripped
Oh,
it all
wow.
down. So now I got this huge rip in my bodywork, but everything's fine. I didn't crash, So like, how do you fix that? Well, we just took the vinyl out and called it a day.
Patched it up. It's also the surgical, the zip tie stitching.
Oh yeah, done that before. That can be like a work of art. It's like a surgeon. You just
Yep.
drill a hole and drill another hole, so you stop the spider web crack.
Yep. Yeah, and it's like if something split up, I know somebody had like all the way across stitches.
Yep.
So that was pretty funny.
I did
That's
that on
classic
my
racer.
my very first. I guess it was my track bike. It was still my street bike, and I crashed it at the track. But I had the street bodywork on, so we just did the whole zip tie it up in a million pieces. But it worked.
Hey, because you got to spend other stuff.
Yeah, spend it on the
Tires.
things that matter: tires and training.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned corner spin. I took Aaron's veterans course, counter steer.
Nice.
That was went with a military buddy and went up there, and we had a really good time because he didn't teach any of it. It was Mark Watkins and Steve Broadstreet, and somebody else was, two other guys were helping out. Oh, Dave Cryer, he was another guy, and we had a lot of fun. Aaron just was ripping around with us, and but it was them, as they were the ones that teaching it, because he always wanted the vets to teach vets.
Okay.
So
maybe more relatable or easier to talk to.
Yeah, like two of the guys had pretty serious PTSD and hadn't been out of the house for like 3 years. So they got him out of the house, and then you could see by the end of the day this big smile.
Yeah.
And a lot of us that had been in combat to help. I mean, I was on an airplane in combat, so like people were shooting at me, but I couldn't shoot back. But it was a good environment for everybody, and we had a lot of fun. And then 3 years ago, I took Danny Walker's American Superbike camp.
Yeah.
And I met Cam Peterson there, and I had known Hunter Dunham.
Almost
Hunter
won.
Dunham. What's that?
Cam Peterson almost won the Daytona 200 by like 7 thousandths
of a second. Yep. And Hunter Dunham was another instructor, and then I don't even know what to say. Preface it, but the Billy Etheridge, quite the character, man. He's that dude. I miss that guy. He's hanging out with or Denny Eslick went out to hang out in Dominican Republic with him, so he's been posting all these pictures with Danny.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny, but yeah, Billy's a riot.
Heck
And
yeah, there's so many unique characters out there.
oh yeah, just man, that was the guy who was trying to get everybody drunk. I remember he was telling me a story where he got Brad Burns pretty toasted the night before when Wera had the 1 year where they had the Triple Crown in 2018.
Yeah.
And they were up at Pittsburgh, and he got him pretty toasty, and Brad had a rough race, so Billy accredited his win to getting Brad pretty toasted that night. Good stuff. Yeah, I drank with Billy a couple times till like 2 a.m. Man,
it can be pretty fun times in the paddock sometimes, playing Connect Four or whatever games or bag toss and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Somebody busts out the moonshine and it's over.
Hanging out with people's campers and late night paddock shenanigans.
Oh man, yeah, the fireworks at Road Atlanta, that's another good one. I actually got some mortars I may take this.
Man, it was a festival atmosphere at Mid-Ohio last year. Mid-Ohio Vintage Days, they have like thousands of people there. There's the vintage swap meet. They have road racing going on. There's actually a people's flat track course in the middle of the parking lot that you can take bicycles and motorcycles. And there was a limo golf cart that caught fire at one point, going around doing circles with 15 people on it. It's just, I think there was a one wheel out there at one point. And then somebody took their car out, and then somebody got pissed off and like, you can't be here. Let's take your car out here. But man, it was such a good time. I took my Trek 29er Top Fuel 8 mountain bike, full suspension mountain bike out there.
Oh wow.
And it's a super tight track. I mean, it's like a 16th of a mile. I don't know. It's just two barrels in the middle of a parking lot with like 5,000 people watching, you know? And so I'm just going on the tightest possible route that I can, and, you know, holding my line, pushing my elbows out, and 450s are trying to go around the outside of me and all this. And that was fun as hell. And, but, you know, pedal, turn, pedal, turn.
Yeah.
You know, pedaling.
I know my buddy Will Posse went up there, and I know John Hawkins comes down, and they always do that race. And it's always that's part of the reason why I wanted to go do the nationals, is because I wanted to get up the pit. I wanted to go out to Mid Ohio and just kind of experience other people, you know, other groups, the locals, and everybody hanging out.
Yeah, and you know, Mid Ohio even has my buddy did his first motocross races, vintage motocross. They run through the woods there, hare scrambles. So I got pretty much every kind of racing except for hill climb.
Yeah, I mean that's the same thing as Barber. It's like a Barber North.
Yeah, and Barber even has the kart track. I don't know if you'd call it a kart track, but a minis. They do mini racing there for Moto America, mini race O'Valleys.
Yeah, they do that, and then they've actually got small bore days where they run the small bores on the main track. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool to see. You know, you got the young kids out there, and even the North American Talent Cup kids, the minis with the, what are they on, 250s now?
Yeah, it's an O'Valley or Aprilia or something. I saw that. That was kind of cool.
I want to say RS 125, but that doesn't sound right. That's the olden days.
Yeah, the old two strokes.
But now they're on the 4-stroke 250s, and sounds like it's more reliable, but just a similar bike. Now they're going up to the lightweight classes 400. So it's like the progression, maybe in 10 years, it'll be 500s. It's like, when does it stop?
Well, so the R6 is no longer a street bike production.
Yeah.
Then, you know, whatever's next, I don't know, you know, the 600RR, the Honda is going to die off because they haven't touched it. And
you think so? That's the next one to go, is the Honda 600?
Well, so the Euro 4 and all the EU politics with climate change and all this stuff, and they're pressing all the heavy restrictions on all the companies, and the Japanese are like, why are we investing so much money when all they're going to do is just restrict us out of business for these bikes? Because the 1000s apparently are easy to maintain that Euro 4 standard, or whether they're going Euro 5 now, but the 600 hasn't. So now it's like, well, great. Now all those twins bikes, the R7 and the 660 and all those other bikes, the SV 650 and the Aprilia 660 and all those bikes they're coming up now. And then what are you supposed to jump from that to a 1000? That's crazy.
Well, now they want to, I guess it looks like they want you to go from a junior cup to the twins cup to the now 750 cup. That's the
Yeah.
new 600 class. And
Yep.
then jump to 600 to stock 1000. You can't even call it the 600 class anymore. What are they calling it? Middleweight plus?
I don't know. I mean, it's still gonna be super sport, but yeah, now that you got the Gixxer 750 and the 600,
Ducati's in there, V2 and all that. V4 is it? I don't even know.
it's a V2. It's the 959 V2.
It's a fast bike. That goes from, I'm thinking the old stock 600s were maybe 130 horsepower. Now we're looking at 150 plus.
Yeah, I mean well, that's the thing, is they're not going to be able to juice up the 750. You actually got to tone it down, and they're going to put a rev limiter on there, and then I'm sure there's a weight thing too.
A ballast maybe, and a restrictor for O2 oxygen coming in.
Yep, all kinds of stuff. Who knows? They got to figure it out. But I mean, it's cool that they got all these other bikes in there, but we'll see how it plays out. I mean, the fact that Richie jumped ship, went to M4, but I don't even know if they're going to be running the 600. Are they?
I don't know what their plan is. I think he was doing one round, or one of the M4 boys. I'm not sure who.
Oh, that's right. He's on the super bike.
One of the guys is doing one round of Daytona on a 600 to be in the 200, and then
That
doing
was
the whole
Richie.
season of 1000s.
That was Richie.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Sam Lockoff is the other guy on the bike, and then Jeff had one of the other bikes, but that was just for the 200.
Yeah.
So
I'm really kind of bummed to see the stock 600 class go away. I would like to see a pure stock 600 class, and then do whatever you want with this new, super sport class. That's fine, but I think it's a waste to get rid of the stock 600s.
Yeah, like the old, when America first started, they had the stock 600s.
There's usually two. There's two for Superbike, there's two for Super Sport, and there's one for juniors. And now they have, I guess you could say, it's the twin stuff is the new juniors, right?
Yep.
I suppose junior plus older people, because you can't. The juniors is capped at like 18 or 21 or something.
Yeah, they brought it down, and then I don't know what they're gonna do with the Twins Cup. I think the Twins is great for the juniors because it's, like Rocco did such a good job when he went from the Junior Cup to the Twins, and then now he's in the 600s. It was a great progression. You could see.
Yeah, I think Rocco though is he's probably an anomaly. It's not going to happen like that for most guys. He was a guy who took it by the horns, did really well, and did exceptionally well. He won 2 championships in 1 year on different bikes. In a pro class.
Yeah, he is an anomaly, but I think part of it has to do with how much he was able to ride.
Oh yeah.
Because like I've known Jackson Blackman since he was like 13, and that kid rides a lot. He's a heck of a rider, and he's obviously proven it by winning races in multiple classes. For those guys, Ashton's a heck of a rider, but he wasn't really able to do the small bikes. And then he got into 600s, and that really didn't work out for him because he's such a big dude. And, the 600 classes, you got to have a dialed bike. You don't have a dialed bike,
you're off by seconds.
Yeah. And so him moving up into the 1000 class really showed, when he got a good bike, he was able to be up there. Even with the Honda last year, he did really well.
Yeah.
Curious to see how he does this year on the BMW, but.
And with a family like that, I imagine how could you not do well? I mean, it's not just your background, but it definitely it's got to help.
Well, he's at the compound like all the time.
Yeah.
He doesn't live very far away, and he's dating Josh's sister, so
That probably helps.
Yeah, so I mean, all those Instagram channels, just him at the compound riding around. What is he on a Ninja? The R3 or a Ninja? The old Ninja
400.
2? No, it's a Ninja 250.
Okay.
So he's riding that on the go-kart track, and then he's got the 450 he's sliding around everywhere. So
Yeah, that's probably really good training. I hope to do my first track day on my brand new motorcycle on Sunday. I got a 2021 Kawasaki KLX 300 Supermoto.
oh
So
wow.
it has less than 500 miles on it. Um, and I probably drove farther to get the bike than miles are on the bike. I went to like it was like Northeast Ohio. It's a couple hours away. It wasn't that bad, but um, saved $2,000 over a brand new bike with like 500 miles. The only thing it has done to it, it's pretty much stock except for bar ends. I put some bar ends on it, like hand guards.
Oh, you did drop down.
Like just hand guards. You
Oh,
just
hand
put
guards.
like
Okay.
like tree. If you go to hit a tree or something, you got your hand
Got
protector.
it.
That's all I put on it.
But
So
it's set up for supermoto.
it's got street tires on it already. It's got already set up for that. I don't even. It doesn't have any upgrades. It's got stock pads. I don't even know if it has steel braided brake lines. I gotta check it. But
That's
I'm
interesting.
excited.
Pick that 300 because it's not as powerful as a 250.
Well, it's like a dirt bike, right? It's
No, I know, yeah, but it's not like a KX 250.
right. It's a little different. It's like dumbed down. It's not a race bike, I would say,
Yeah.
but it'll be like a nice track bike. I might do a few races on it just to, do that again or just do that for the first time on a supermoto bike. Just trying to do something new and cheap, and
Yeah.
I'm also going to be coaching on this for like street riders and stuff like that. So just something to get my foot wet again. I haven't had a street bike in a decade, so something new.
Yeah. That'll be fun. Has it got a light on it?
So it has lights, turn signals. It's street legal. I don't have it plated yet. I'm still waiting for the title in the mail right now. I bought it from a guy who had a lien on it. And unfortunately, he paid it in a way that the bank is holding the title for 20 days. So I paid him in cash, and then he just paid him by checking account. He gave him his routing and his account number. You think that's a pretty secure method of payment, but I guess he could still do a chargeback or something. He just didn't read the fine print. So
Wow.
he should have gotten it back over the weekend, gotten the title. Then he's got to get it notarized and then ship it to me. I did this. I bought a bike this way before, and I just had him sign. I will send you the title when I get it. I paid for this bike. You own the bike. It's just we're waiting on paperwork.
Yeah.
So I have that piece of paper. But I did this before with a different bike, with a track only bike, and it wasn't an issue because I didn't have to go through Secretary of State or get it titled or anything. It was just a track only bike, so I didn't think about any of that. So for anybody who's buying a bike with a lien in another state, make sure that they're paying the lien in cash or there was a couple of different ways you could do it, but it couldn't be a debit card, it couldn't be a credit card. I think cashier's check or money order would be acceptable for immediate release. So he paid some extra money to get it overnighted to him, like $35 or something. But it's ridiculous. It's so silly, but you got to read the fine print.
Yeah, I bought a 99 Super Hawk from a buddy up in Chicago for like $350.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's wrong with it yet, but he's like, yeah, it doesn't really turn over that well. I'm like, all right, well, I can take it to the shop and tear it apart. But yeah, I was interested in getting that thing running and maybe coaching on that bike. But my whole goal was to start a Rumble channel because I didn't want to do YouTube. Everybody's got YouTube, so I wanted to get on Rumble early and get a Rumble channel. Me putting the bike together and just going through whatever. I think anything's entertaining when it comes. I didn't want a fully polished like. Here's me putting the bike together, and then it's like speed up, and I'm working on the bike really fast, and then here's all this stuff. I want people to see, like, oh man, I did this wrong. Like, oh, why did I do that? It's kind of like the what not to do, I guess.
Something
Doing
raw,
a bike.
something less edited and less snappy.
Yeah.
Maybe That's what I feel like I'm trying to do with this. Just it's not super edited. I'm probably just gonna splice the beginning and end and call it a day. And then I think people like the rawness of it. You might lose some people because they're not as entertained every 3 seconds, but maybe that's not my audience.
No, and that's the thing is like I enjoyed like the conversations with people that I know.
Yeah.
So I'll go pop in. I'm like, oh hey, so look who it is, or um, it was um, Reese Wacker was one of them, and I had to give a shout. Yeah, you do on the Eddie Craft, right?
Yep. Not yet,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh,
I've
not
been
yet.
trying to get him on here. Maybe we can stick a bug in his ear.
Yeah, I will because I was gonna make a joke about how my garage setup is not quite Eddie Craft approved because it's like my dream garage.
Yeah, he's got a good setup there.
Oh man, it so good that Road Racing World did a cribs with him. It was, I mean, partially because of his dad, but still,
Well,
Eddie's.
his dad's got his own setup at his house.
Yeah, but the Craft family and having Eddie's always had those super trick bikes, and that especially when he raced that 750, man, that Yoshimura 750 was awesome. That
Yeah, it
was
was
such a
pain in the ass trying to race against him on that thing. It's like even when he was on the 600, every time you get on the straightaway, it's like there he goes, And
yep.
there's videos of us at Nelson Ledges racing together just sped up, and you can see on all the straightaways he's pulling away from me. In the infield, all the turns, I'm catching up to him again. So I was like, God damn it! I wish I had a better engine.
Yeah,
But
he's
he always had the best packages. He's got the best bikes. He was always the perennial pro amateur. Like I would
yeah,
say that in the best way possible because he did race a couple of rounds. I think he did Mid Ohio as a pro, but never a full season. So I always
yeah.
looked at him as this is the pro I got to beat. And we had some battles. I think I beat him in one race, and
Hey, that's a pretty good one.
every other race he got me. But it was always like this is the man to beat, and look how professional he's doing it, and I look like a shit show over here. So I'm
Hey,
trying not to live. No, he gave me good advice. Like when I was first starting, I had all my tools all over the ground. Like I didn't know what I was doing because I didn't. I was just learning.
yeah,
And he'd come over and like, hey, make sure you got your stuff on organized because there's people walking around and looking at, people like different industry people and might want to introduce yourself and you want to look the best as you can and put your best foot forward. And he definitely gave me some sponsorship advice. And everybody wanted to be that professional with the witchcraft canopies and the carpet in his pit, and he's got a suspension crew chief as his dad. Like, how do you do that?
that's kind of nice to have.
Yeah,
Joe, having Joe as your dad, being able to work on your bike's pretty awesome.
for sure. Man, I remember Joe helped me one time, his dad with the suspension, and I immediately dropped like a second and a half. He just like, oh yeah, twist this, twist that. I was like, oh, that's a whole new bike.
Yep. Yeah, it's like talk to Fitz or like I asked either Thermos Man or Mike Godin or Jeff May's another good one. I tell you what, that guy knows how to set up a bike for sure. Just dialing in the K-Tech, I got that DDS Pro, so it has the bypass valve and understanding what that does,
Yeah.
and finally figuring it out and be like, oh man, okay, I turn it all the way up here, and I turn it all the way down on this track, and it grips much better. And just getting the front end dialed. But yeah, it's nice to have those guys at your disposal. You can just call them up and be like, hey, I'm having this problem, or send them a picture of tire wear, and they tell you like, hey, get a clicks of preload in here, and you'll be good to go, or a couple psi. Drop it a pound and a couple clicks of preload, and you're good to go.
Yeah, or they look at your tire and they're like, oh, you don't need different suspension. Your tire pressure is too low or something like that. It's like, how did you know that based on looking at it and just seeing a tiny wear pattern? It's because they've seen it 100 times, more than that probably. And somehow I wanted to ask you, is there any resources or places you would point people to learning more about suspension, whether it's like books or podcasts or things like that? Like, how do you learn about suspension and setup and things like that?
Um, YouTube is such a good resource. I started out watching all those Dave Moss videos because I was just, you know, my friends are always occupied with the people that they support. So I don't like I'm not a fast guy. I know I'm not a fast guy, so I'm just trying to have fun. I like to get better, so I'll get a couple snippets here, but I've always had to kind of try to learn myself so I can understand or maybe communicate because that's half the battle right there. So I know that when Chaz Davies was racing for KWS, Chip Spalding was the moderator between Chaz and a mechanic. I think Rocky was the guy's name. So like he would translate what Chaz was saying from the writer's perspective into the mechanic language.
Yeah.
And then he was able to decipher what Chip was saying. So then it came back and it's like, okay, well, you know, Godin's really good at that because he's used to ride and so he kind of understands things better based on the writer's perspective, but some guys don't. And that's half the battle. That's why, you know, you see the pros where they're like, they don't really get along with the crew chief, so you see them struggling a lot. And the good ones know what the writer's saying, or the writer's really good at knowing how to communicate what's happening on the bike in a mechanic's perspective so they can understand and visualize it so they know what's going on with the bike from their end. So just understanding what the different lingo is, and you know, the Dave Moss videos are really good. I bought a book on suspension on Amazon. I know I had a Troy Bayliss book, but that wasn't the suspension. I bought a separate suspension guide, motorcycle suspension guide, just to kind of see how things work and just kind of understand what's going on, how tire pressure affects it, and then I know there's some other resources online. Just doing your homework, really, honestly. I'm just searching for the information, really.
Yeah.
But the 2 clicks out thing is kind of fun to watch because he explains it really well. It's the one thing I always enjoyed about those videos is he explained everything really well. And you see some people on there that you might know or whatever, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and if you're going to the racetrack, you could always, try things on your own bike, whether it's going one direction on your preload or dampening, compression, and just, try it one way. If it feels terrible, go the other way, and you're not going to really break anything. Now, when you're doing this, you got to take it easy sometimes. You're not going to go 100% your first lap. It's going to feel different. Different things are going to be happening. So maybe don't go full pace. But if you don't go full pace, maybe you don't feel what was happening before. So it's kind of like this, be careful for a couple laps, but let's see how it feels.
Well, and the biggest thing out of all of that is have a notebook.
Yeah,
I
write down what you're doing, record the changes you're making, because if you're just doing stuff willy-nilly, you're not going to remember what your settings were.
Nope. And the other thing is that I learned is having your settings down, because God forbid one of your competitors is kind of shady and comes to your pits in the middle of the night and undoes it, because my buddy had that happen to him.
Yeah.
And they changed his settings. And so you double check your settings in the morning before you go out and ride.
Yeah.
And that way you have them there and you know exactly what you need to put in there. Because
That'd be
that stuff
awesome.
happens.
That's all you needed. It was just those 2 clicks, and he made you go a second faster. You didn't even know why.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, for years I didn't even touch my suspension. I mean, I'll say I got my suspension refreshed halfway into the track in my first track day riding season, and I would recommend that for everybody. Refresh your suspension oil at least once or twice, maybe not twice a year, but once every year or every other year if you're just doing track days. And then after that, I got it set up for my weight. And when I had bought the bike, one bike in particular, it was set up for like a 200-pound rider. I'm 160, 170 maybe with gear on and all that. And I didn't touch it. And I think it made me a better rider because I just had to ride to the bike, and I think the guy I bought it from was more intermediate pace as a 200-pound rider. So as a maybe advanced or expert pace, lighter guy, it was perfect for me. So I think it kind of just worked itself out.
Sorry about that. People get eager on the street in front of my house with their I think that was the AMG
Oh,
V8.
so my engine, I heard something. I couldn't tell you what it was though.
Yeah, it was a V8. Somebody just buzzed by the house. They get all excited and take off like an idiot.
I
Uh,
understand. We all have not ideal audio environments, but we're making the best of it we can.
right?
You know, I actually have a legitimate microphone, but I haven't figured out or spent the time hooking it up to my computer yet because it's really not for a computer. It's for like an audio interface. So we could probably figure this out for the next one a little bit better.
My wife did a podcast for a little while, and I got her the blue microphone. It wasn't
Oh
that
yeah,
bad.
nice.
It's pretty nice. Picks
Yeah.
up really well, but yeah, the suspension stuff is tough. It's wizardry, really. Uh, it's like you said, try something. I know Aaron Yates, I heard him say once that never ride the same bike twice.
You always
Always,
want to be changing stuff.
yep. Because every leap you make, you're constantly changing the bike because the faster you go, it does different things. You need to kind of keep up with it. So um I have my settings for the track, but again, ambient temperatures change. Um, track temperature changes. So it affects the tire and affects the fluid temperature. And if the fluid's not hot enough, you don't get as much fluid moving. So you got to dial things down a little bit. So you're always adjusting to your environment. And just know where you're supposed to be at, and then you adjust from there as the bike is reacting to the environment.
Yeah, you can maybe try a different sprocket today. You were bouncing off the limiter in turn 3 a little bit, so let's try a little different gearing. You know, whether
Yeah.
it's gearing or suspension or, when I rode and raced full seasons, my whole thought about for me how to get faster was never the bike. It was like the bike's fine. I don't need to touch anything on the bike. I just need to ride it better because this is already capable of 2 seconds faster than I'm going or whatever it is. Um, I just need to get my head out of my ass and figure out the right line and how to get on the gas sooner. And really, just my body position was always something I focused on. I always had a fairly extreme body position compared to most. I was not an elbow dragger. I just didn't stick my elbows out, but I could probably drag my helmet closer than my elbows. That's just my style. I was always getting my head as far over in front of my hand kind of thing or above my hand as I could, and just get that chest weight and torso weight as far down and inside of the corner as I can was my style. And so when I wasn't riding in that way, I was like, well, I need to just fix what I'm doing. I'm not riding right. The bike's not turning because I'm not riding it the right way. And a lot of riders, you see pro riders say, oh, the bike is shit. I can't get the bike to turn. It's not doing this. It's not doing that. And some of that's true based on the elevation of the new track you're going to, but some of it's also maybe you're not braking at the right point. Maybe you're going too deep in that corner.
Yeah, or just being able to get the bike to rotate on the gas and get it to come around.
Yeah.
Um, that flat track's really good at that. Which I still don't. I'm still learning. I'm not a very naturally gifted rider. I have to work twice as hard. Which is why it's taken me so long to get up to speed, at least on my home track. Road Atlanta is a whole nother animal, and I still haven't figured out how to go faster because I don't know how to ride the bike.
Yeah.
Never really, and that was the one thing that I've been wanting to do was to go to either get fully coached for a whole day, stripping down everything I know and starting from scratch on what I'm supposed to be doing with the bike. And I've had some good conversations with Jeff about riding because we're good friends and I have that ability, I was able to hang out with him last month at one of his at his vacation place, and we were hanging out, and he was only like 3 hours away. So I said, hey, he told me he was going to be down there. So I was like, hey man, I'll come down and hang out. So we just had a nice conversation about riding, and you know, when you're going fast, you're yanking the bike. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
got to muscle the 600 around, and you know, 1000 is even worse. But if you're not yanking the bike and trying to get it to snap back and forth, you're not riding hard enough. I'm like, oh man, I've always felt pretty lazy where you're kind of like pulling the bike over and just getting the bike to turn, or you know, and trying to do that where it just takes too much time to get the bike, especially at turn 3 of Road Atlanta, or at turn 4 when you come through the chicane and then you come around that long sweeping turn. If you don't get the bike pointed right and get on the gas, I was always going out and trying to bring the bike around where that's
Yeah.
so slow. I lose half a second.
You're talking on the left-hander, or when you throw it
Yeah,
down the hill going right after
no, the
that.
left-hander.
Yeah.
So when you come and you hit your knee on the ground for the chicane and then you flip it right back over,
Yeah.
get the quick shift and pin it, trying to get it, you know, get it the bike oriented that way around the corner. Where instead I get on the gas and the bike would want to go out, and I'd have to get the bike to turn in before I could get back to full throttle.
Yeah, and
So I was
those
losing.
guys, if you look at the superbike guys, they're all hugging it super tight, using as much curbing as they possibly can through there. I'm like, man, I wasn't even close to using that much track through there. I thought I was at the limit.
Oh yeah, and you watch them; they'll touch their knee inside. They'll actually drive through the curving on the inside, and then as they flip over to the other side, their knees in the dirt going
Yeah,
around that corner, and the bike's kind of stood up a little bit, and they're just spinning around the corner,
yeah, and then
and
you got
then
to be careful at that next the next right-hander down the hill, because you get that wrong. There's a wall real close that my buddy was airlifted out of
oh wow,
a bunch of years ago. Yeah, he had a really bad crash, and it was one of those where they did not release the bike back to us, and they were holding it for investigation, and you never want to hear that. But he was eventually okay, and I think he had some brain injury at first. It was like a brain bleed or something like that.
oh wow,
But yeah, he was released from the hospital, and he didn't really ride too much after that. But he was okay as far as like he survived the incident and walked away, and he rides tons of mountain bikes now. I think he races mountain bikes.
oh wow, yeah, yeah. Because when you flip it over, you can go straight, and you're right into that air
I mean,
fencing.
there was an air fence there, thankfully, but
Yeah,
on the other side of the air fence is like a ravine, right? It just
yep,
goes down pretty far, so it's not like they have to build up a whole mountain.
yeah. I know. It's crazy. The track is mysteriously dangerous because Andy White passed away there in 2014, and
Yeah,
that was at a turn 5, and that was mysterious crash as well. I
I
was
was
in
there
the
that day.
race. Oh, you were?
Yeah, I was there. I was racing in the 600 classes, and I remember somebody said he was having transmission problems and he was on a Kawasaki. I was
Yep.
like, well, I'm having transmission problems and I'm on a Kawasaki. I was like, well, should I race? I was like, I don't know, because maybe they said maybe that's why he stood the bike up and went straight. And maybe couldn't he was in neutral shift or something. He is false neutral. I don't know. I'm speculating, but you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually in the race where the marshaller got ran over
Oh,
in 2017.
that was at
Late.
Blackhawk?
No, that was at Road Atlanta. The lady had been working there. She'd been a volunteer for like 30 years. And she was working turn 6. And I think Mike Martin was the one who crashed in turn 6. And for some reason, she went out there. And on the way back, I can't remember who hit her, but somebody hit her. She stopped and hit her straight on. And then
Ah,
he went off and over, and then another guy went off of him. And when I came around, they were waving the red flag and everything. We came around, we saw her laying face down. I was like, whoa, what happened? Like, it was nuts.
that's scary, man. That's Road Atlanta, you said?
Yeah, turn
Road
6 is,
Atlanta.
yeah, as soon as you come around turn 6, like right there.
Yeah, so I've been, as you probably know, working as a marshal for the last
Yeah,
year or so, and
yeah, I've been watching that. You were down at Daytona.
a couple times this year. I was there in January. I was there in March for the 200.
Yeah.
And I was there in October last year for the Race of Champions.
CCS. Yeah, CCS weekend.
And it's a whole new ball of wax, man. From racing, you think that's dangerous. How about not wearing any gear and being on the racetrack?
Yep. And then having to run out there and like grab a bike and try not to get, hoping you're not going to get taken out.
So 99% of the time, we do not run out on a hot racetrack. However, there are times when you do that. And so each organization is different. They all have their own rules. Some of them are like, no, absolutely not. Do not run out there under any circumstance. But there's so many different circumstances that could happen. Like you can't foresee every single possible situation. So we just go through basic, this is what happens if this sort of thing happens. If there's a crash over here, we have procedures for that. But like at Daytona, this past time, I was actually at turn 3, which Daytona pit exit is a little different, but it's where you go all the way around the cones and then you exit into basically when you're going under the straight into turn 4, the first major left-hander there, the kink. So I'm at the flag station, which is 6 feet from the racing surface. So we just have a tire barrier there, and there's a small air fence in front of that. So they're exiting pit lane at 100 miles an hour, and I could hit them with the flag if I wanted to. We're right there. So it's like you got to pay attention at all instances. Like there was even a guy who lost it. Somehow he got entangled with another rider during the 200, and he's on the other side of the cones now. So you think there's a little bit protected. He's now 10 feet away from the track surface where the start of it, instead of 6, but he's 16 feet away. Big deal, right? But he accidentally crossed the cones, like he lost it. It was heading straight towards us, and then at the last second, crosses again over the cones. So I'm seeing cones fly all over the place here.
Oh man!
And I'm surprised he didn't lose the front hitting the cones or anything. And I'm like, do I call it in? There's cones everywhere. Like cones on the race. There wasn't on the racing line, so it wasn't a big deal. They landed in a good spot. But I'm seeing a bike coming at me and cones flying. I'm like, oh shit, what's happening? Do I duck? I don't know what to do.
No.
But that didn't really even require a flag because he was on and off so quickly, and there was nobody really behind him at that point. Back on the racing line, they call it an O&O, on and off and back on.
Wow.
So he basically was a self-cleaner. Anybody's a self-cleaner, someone who crashes or has an incident and fixes it themselves without our intervening, and then we don't have to do anything. We don't even leave our station. Like there's a lot of people who just have a low side, pick it up themselves, and they keep going. That's a self-cleaner.
Nice.
Those are the best kind of crashes you want to see.
Oh yeah.
But and then there was a fairly scary crash. I don't remember the rider, if it was, it might have been, I want to say South African rider in the Twins Cup. Was it Dominic Doyle, who lost it at Daytona? He went wide and was about to come into oncoming traffic because how turn 3 is, it's a U-turn there. So he went wide coming out of 2, went into the grass, and then couldn't get a stop. He's already going 100 miles an hour, and then just basically fell off the back of it and went down.
Oh,
that's something you never want to do. That's like I had to lay her down. But you hear those Harley guys say all the time, right?
yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, that's a situation where you don't really have any choice. You're either going to come into a pack with 15 riders, or you're going to tuck the front or something.
Or do a Mazziato and ride up on the wall.
Yeah, that's craziness. Get airborne on the banking.
Yeah. That was so nuts.
Has that ever happened before? And he stayed on?
Yeah. Did you not see it?
No, has it happened as aside from there and they actually stayed on? I can't remember at a time where someone's hit the wall, hit 2 different riders, and then nobody crashed.
No, I don't think I've seen it. That's it. That was so wild. I mean, I've seen people hit the wall and then like bounce off, and then craziness happens. But especially at Daytona, because they're flying. Even those Twins bikes are doing over 100 miles an hour.
They're going pretty quick, and then we got to be super careful about rain there because we even had somebody crash. He was got on the sealer on the banking, and he just immediately high sided.
Wasn't that Alex Coelho and
It was orange and white leathers, I want to say.
yeah, Loretta.
Loretta,
Yeah,
Chris,
Jose Loretta.
Jose.
Yeah, is the Kawasaki that was in the front, and then he plowed in the back of him.
Yeah, it was kind of nasty, but it looked like he walked away.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah,
you're
he said
really
he was-
not falling that far. You're falling like 3-4 feet from your bike, and then you're just sliding a long time. You know, as
Yeah.
long as you don't get run over, it's not that big a deal.
especially if you low side into the turn, like
Yeah.
on the side of the turn, because then you just plop down and go.
Yeah, you're already on the ground. Your knees already touching the ground. If it's a front end crash, so you might
Yeah.
hit your hand on the ground, but then you're already
Yep.
you might get some bruising, some hip bruising and all that, but
Yeah.
pretty much be okay. But we should probably wrap this up, man. It's already been
Yeah,
over
man.
2 hours.
I know. It went by
So it
like
goes
that.
by quick, even with that small blip we had.
Yeah.
So I'll be sure to get this edited and posted, and I'll tag you in it.
No worries, brother. I appreciate it.
For sure, we'll connect soon, and I'll see you at the racetrack.
All right, brother.
Have a good one.
See ya.